Yeah. Okay, well, listen, I am excited about today's broadcast. Hey, listen, family, those of you who are tuning in on all of our virtual platforms, go ahead on the tag, share. Let's get everybody in because today we're getting ready to challenge you to be engaged and to be involved. You got to be engaged, you got to be involved. So go ahead on all those on our virtual platform, tag, share, and let's get everybody in. It's the Greg James Community Show right here on Hallelujah 95.3. And guess what? We are excited about today's broadcast. Hey, government shutdown taking place, and we in Tallahassee with a shutdown. I don't think it was a shutdown, maybe I don't know. We're going to talk about it to see what we're going to call it. But really, we're getting ready. Tag, share. Everybody tuning And now here's your host, Greg James. Want to say good afternoon, Tallahassee and the surrounding areas once again. Hey, we want to thank God for another blessed day. We are excited to be here. We are excited to be alive and in the number just one more time. Hey, so much is going on in and around our world. As a matter of fact, October 1 at 12 midnight, you know what happened. Government went into a shutdown. And for those of you who just joined me at 12 noon, I was talking about a spiritual shutdown. Hey, just like you know what happened? The war is taking place in D.C. Hey, there's a war taking place inside of you. Maybe there's some things you need to shut down. Last government shutdown took place 7 years ago. That's right, lasted for 35 days. And you know what happened? The number 7, it means completion, fulfillment. Here we are, the 10th month. Number 10 spiritually means divine order. So some things got to come in order. So we're going to keep our eyes not on the one who is saying the government is in charge of the world, but we're going to keep our eyes on the one who governs the world, because I believe something is about to happen. So therefore, we need to do a spiritual shutdown. And we need to get things in order. They couldn't balance the books. They were debating. Maybe there's some deficiencies that we've got in our books. So let's get it together so that we can make sure that we are doing all that we need to do. Go ahead on and tag and share. Rico Dixon, God bless you. Glad to have you. Christique, why don't you give us a call on the radio? Give us a call. And let's get right to it. Listen, I'm excited about today's guest and the way this happened. I mean, to be honest with you, those of you who listen to the broadcast, it wasn't planned. It just happened. The only person I know that can make something like this happen was the man above. Because everybody you see here, I asked them one time and they consented to be here. Because what we're about to talk about, it means a lot to them. And I need you to hear their voice because it's got to mean a lot to you. Joining me all the way from Indianapolis is she on the air, Christique Henry.
Hey, Pastor, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Well, listen, I tell you, you wasn't here, but that post you had got things a little bit shaking around Tallahassee.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Yes.
Well, hey, you know, I think that without that, those things are already shaking. There's a lot of moving and shaking going on.
Okay. Well, listen, we're excited about our guest, and let me get a chance to introduce him, and we're going to dive right into the conversation because I feel and believe that there's so much the community needs to hear and needs to know. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people who are not even aware of what's happening with the merger that's taking place. But joining me in the studio today is a young lady who has spent her entire life here instilling values in our children, retired from our Leon County school system, and still after 12 years of being retired, she's still going back and forth into the school systems. She's making community projects her top of the list of things to do. You can see her face and hear her voice, whether it's at school board, city hall, county commission, meetings. She's there, none other than Cheryl Brown, who lives a block away from the mansion. So I know they hear her in the mansion, raising sand. I want to say good afternoon, Cheryl Brown.
Good afternoon. How's everybody? All my people. Hello.
Okay, how are you?
I'm great. I am wonderful.
Well, this is the first time having you here, and I'm excited about it.
I am excited too. Very much excited.
Because you are constantly engaged in the community doing so much. So to have you here as a real advocate, not just on one issue, but you're on issues that concern our community as a whole. So that means a lot. And I thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for the invite.
Wonderful. Also joining us, a young man who I heard today over at City Hall, gave an amazing testimony, and it really moved me. And I extended the invitation, and little did I know, he said, I've been following you, and I've been watching what you've been doing. So I'm grateful for that, but I'm so glad to have Joe. Say that last name. Kaliki. Joe, good to have you with us today, man.
Yeah, wonderful to be here, and I'm really happy, you have this platform to talk about things that are going on in the community, how it affects everybody. So, any insight I can give, I'm fired up today after the commission meeting. Excited to talk about it.
Wonderful. And everybody who's listening to the broadcast, this gentleman here. I mean, he's known on the state level. He's known on the national level. Whenever you see him with that cowboy hat on and some boots, somebody is going to get the business. He has led the NAACP locally. He's been the state vice president, and he's been an advocate in our community years upon years. Been a mentor. I mean, there's a plethora of things that he is doing and has done to make a difference in our community. And one thing about community, when it's in your heart, people are going to know how adamant you are by your presence and by your voice. So delighted to have Mr. Dale Landry with us today.
Thank you, Greg, for the invite. And first of all, I want to commend you and the pastors for rising up yesterday and making your comment, because that was the motivation that got me up out my bed at 7:30. And then I want to give thanks to my sister here, and I want to commend you. I never had a chance to, on the awards you got from the school board.
Thank
and
you.
The things that you got from the school.
Thank you.
And then you let me know Christy Henry done emailed me. Now you say she's in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And she done emailed me from Indianapolis. Now I can't talk to her when she's in Tallahassee.
But she emailed.
But she can email me from Tallahassee and then let me know where your address was, like I didn't remember.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, Christine, you're getting a bonus for that and an increase in pay. Good. So, Christine, the panel that we have today, what can you say to that?
I think it speaks to the history and the historic nature of what's on the table. We're, having conversations about a historic shift and expansion in our local medical ecosystem. But with folks like Dale Landry and Cheryl there, they understand the history from a perspective of civil rights and social justice. And so I think all of those conversations are coming to the table because it's sensitive. People who were born in Fairview Hospital, people who have received care in the body community, they know from whence we came. And I think that this shift to give control to a capable entity like FSU Health is definitely opportunity, but I think people just need to feel as if it's infused with community awareness, community literacy, and that we understand the community value that is being transferred. And so I think all things need to be on the table, and most importantly, just the prayer that because of the importance of public policy on the national level and how it's impacting how care moves forward in communities, it makes it even more sensitive in the ears of folks. Right. So it's great to have folks who have that sensibility, who have that conversation, to have the conversation today and really help us to understand and have some balance that we need to be aware, but not necessarily with the pitchforks, right? We need to be at the table advocating to make sure that equitable representation, equitable governance, that the system represents the people that will be cared for by it. And I think that's a necessary exercise in civics and in public process. So looking forward to continuing to listen to the voices and hear what folks have to say and see how that plays out and what we finally get delivered to the public as the plan of action moving forward.
Gotcha. Well, listen, I tell you what I want to do. I want to dive right into this conversation. For those of you who are tuned into the broadcast throughout the region, we are talking about the merger of the TMH and the Florida State. And many of you that are in rural communities, you are going to feel somewhat of an impact. So this is just not a Tallahassee issue.
Right.
This is regional. And because there was in our pastors meeting after the press conference, and one of our pastors shared with us that he has a member who drives from Valdosta because they appreciate the care from TMH. So, so TMH has a great community hand, and it has a great community light that draws people. I want to start with you, Mr. Landry, because you said something in your speech, and all of these panelists today, I heard them talking today, and I want to thank them for rearranging their schedules to come and be with us today, because I asked them right then and immediately, because they wanted you as a public to know the importance of this issue. They rearranged to be here with us today. So I want to thank them for that. But let's go to you, Mr. Landry, and then Joe, I want you to chime in, and you as well, Cheryl. Today, hearing what you heard and saying what you said, where do we go from here, and what is at stake even now?
What I think we have at stake, first and foremost, I want to say this, and I think it's important since we did make a reference of my past leadership. I'm Dale Landry, and yes, I was past president of the NAACP and state vice president, one of 5. But more importantly, I'm not here in that capacity. It's important that I make that statement, that I am not here speaking on behalf or in the capacity of the NAACP. I'm speaking as an active citizen.
Right.
But more importantly, I bring a history. And see, the thing we got to remember is this. Many times, many folk don't remember this or do not know this happened. But see, there was at one time when the Governor Rick Scott, that he had came in and balanced in signing the budget. He had canceled out all the HBCUs. Based on the budget that he was getting ready to sign in June of that year, Florida Memorial was going to have to shut down immediately after the budget was signed. They weren't going to make it into the fall. Bethune-Cookman, not Bethune, I take that back, let me go back. Florida Memorial and Edwards Waters were both going to, see, they get funding from the state, and he was drawing all that funding down.
Wow.
Then what was happening was Bethune-Cookman was going to last until Christmas, and FAMU had a year. That was under the budget he was signing. But then they called us, one of the people from in the Department of Education. I got a hold of our then state president, Dora Benuizi, and she reached out to the lieutenant governor at the time. For many of you, if you think back, there was a thing in the Democrat where they wrote that the lieutenant governor saved the HBCUs. She did. She went back in and talked to the governor, and he approved and let it go through. I make that point because it's important to understand how fragile and how fast this can go. And when you don't know. When we start talking about transferring that building, the physical plant, you need to understand that does not get transferred to Florida State. It's in the name, but all buildings that go to the university system belong to the Board of Governors. We have seen the Board of Governors move in the past, most recently. I mean, the situation with the FAMU president, that's behind us. That's done now. But we saw the Board of Governors move. We saw how they could even manipulate trustees to get them off the board so that they could come in and do what they want to do. When we transfer this hospital, it's getting transferred to Ron DeSantis. take it even deeper, we say it's going to be a research hospital. It's going to be research, all right, for Robert Kennedy and the Department of Health because of that link. It belongs to the state. It no longer belongs to the people. It's not, so even though it says a not-for-profit, you can guess how long that's going to be when they come in not-for-profit status at the IRS. My point I make is we're giving up the people. And so the key thing, I want to add one other thing to add, and the bottom line out of this, you asked me where we need to go. This needs to go on the ballot. We need to move it and let the people of Tallahassee vote it up or down. We've done it with many different things in the past. It should make a difference here. But the last important thing we need to look at is this. I heard terms that were used by you, Christique. You used the word equitable. Well, you do know that can't transfer. Once you transfer it over to FSU, the word equity can't be on the table. Diversity can't be on the table. Inclusion can't be on the table. Now, FSU has already demonstrated this. I'm not giving you something new. Go back and look at what recently came out based on the faculty union. They came back in and they were able, because they were rewriting the code of conduct on the campus, and they were taking out certain terms that related to sex, gender for those people that are protected. It barely came down to only veterans and disabled, but everybody else was wiped out until the university faculty were able to come back in and through the courts, got them to back down because it was in their contracts already before all of the DEI. Now, what do you think is getting ready to happen to all the staff at TMH? When they fall under FSU will be deciding policy. Yes, they have a vote, but the bottom line is DEI as we know it. And for hospital employees is out the window. The only thing that saved them was FSU. Now, I say this not to the disadvantage of FSU and anybody else, but what we're at right now is all of this was rushed. The people didn't get a chance to have input. Now, I want to say this to my people, and I say this to the people that believe in our city like I do. October 26th is show-up time. I mean, whatever date they got this here, is show-up time. I was embarrassed. Well, I wasn't embarrassed because y'all didn't know.
Nobody knew.
Y'all didn't know. Y'all don't understand how deep this is. FAMU School of Medicine, based on the word of the Board of Governors, will be transferred in its entirety, because go back and look at what they're creating. FSU Health. On all the charts I saw today, I saw FAMU only on about 2 charts. And they came from TMH, talking about their agreement between FAMU and TMH. There are no agreements between FSU and FAMU to my knowledge. So FSU did not have any slide that referred anything about FAMU or Tallahassee State College. And let's be clear, Tallahassee State College won't be at that level of coming in. They are an entry school. They're a feeder, okay? So they're not gonna really, other than provide some work available. But again, I didn't hear anybody talk about an MOU between FAMU and TFS and Florida State. Nobody. It's gonna be a Florida State piece. So on that note, 2 things. DEI will come off the table for the people that work there and for the people that's gonna use the services. And the other thing I'm pushing that I didn't get a chance to say, it needs to go to the ballot. Just like they said, we voted for the coal plant. We voted for several different things. And I would ask some of the people to talk about what all we voted for in this city when it came down to issue with the people. And there's nothing no better than when we talk about the health care and what's getting ready to come down from the top, straight down through DeSantis into Tallahassee.
Can I mention something
Yes.
that President McCullough said on that item specifically? So I think several commissioners mentioned this exact issue. Our city, we're a blue city. We disagree broadly with the direction that the governor wants to put out there. And they asked, what protections, what guarantees, what assurances can you make? And what President McCullough essentially said is, well, you know, we're independent, so on and so forth. Now, those grants come from the federal government. What they decide to provide grants on is up to
The feds.
the Fed, CDC, NIH, HHS, all these different entities who are currently controlled by who they're controlled by, right? But the bigger thing that he said was, well, okay, the only way that we would be affected by policies related to DEI, so on and so forth, is if they pass a law. Who controls every facet of the legislature right now? If they want to pass a law, they could,
Mhm.
and it would absolutely affect Florida State and any medical facilities, any other facilities that they operate. We already know, there was terminology scrubbed from, I believe it was African American Studies, the websites. Can we use certain terms referring to race on an African American Studies webpage for a program at Florida State? So I think it is a little bit of a naive representation of what could happen. So I just wanted to support that.
Well, the one thing, if I may real
Go
quick,
ahead.
the one thing I want to go back to what you said. Now, you sure that McCullough said they have to pass a law in order for them to pass on DEI?
That's what he said. That's what he
Okay,
said.
that's important, because we need to go back and hold him to his word. Why is he already imposing DEI if it takes a law? Why is he already doing it? I mean, it came out when we saw what came from the faculty senate. You see, even though I can't speak on behalf of it, but when the students from the FSU went over there to confront him behind the violence, and it was about DEI, they couldn't speak, none of his staff. So I beg to differ with President McCullough. President McCullough got one job, get TMH. That's his job. He has no obligation to the citizens of Tallahassee, none, no more than the president of AMU. But the citizens of Tallahassee, they want our real estate. They are jumping out of their butt to get that real estate. We can take it to the ballot. And it's a matter of us being blue, I think that's just limited in time. We're slowly but surely hitting purple. And this is going to be one of the things that help us to get there.
Listen, so here it is. We're in a. I really want to say we're in a crisis mode when it comes to where we are, because there's a lot of uncertainty. Cheryl, you made a very strong comment today that you're encountering people that don't even know what's going on.
Well, when I first heard about it, first of all, let me establish the fact I had no idea that the city was so involved with the hospital until about a few months ago. So when I heard about it, I thought, well, I go to the meeting anyway, but I made sure that I was at the meetings, pay attention to the meetings. If I didn't go, I was watching it on television. We must be aware of what's going on at all times, and that's what I wanted them to be aware of at City Hall. I have a lot of people at my church and community and around was asking me, what's going on with the hospital? Well, I don't know. I'm going to the meetings to find out. And I'm still trying to get more clarification on exactly what's going to transpire from that. So as Mr. Landry said, we need you all to show up and speak and say what's on your mind so you can get some clarification, because there's strength in numbers. I'm just asking you all to come out and be heard and listen and see and make a decision about what you've heard, because that's what you need to know. We need to be in the know, and that's one thing. My mom always told me, if you got knowledge, you got power.
Mm-hmm.
Power with knowledge. And that's what I emphasize when I taught my kids. So that's what we need. We need our community, everybody, to come out, ask questions, to be vigilant about what's going to happen with the hospital. I know a lot of my friends saying, well, what about indigent care? They brought that up at the meeting and also stated that we didn't have to worry about that. But we still, in the back of some people's mind that don't have insurance, is going to be worried about it. I got insurance and I'd be worried, So you have to make sure that you know what's going on so you can prepare yourself for what's coming. And if they do put it on the ballot, another thing that's going to be on the ballot. We know that we don't have many people show up during the primary. So I'm telling everybody, whether that's on the ballot or not, we need to get out and vote. Because that's what has happened to us right now, this minute. We did not show up and vote.
Wow. Well, Joe, let me ask you this, and Cheryl, I really hear you, and for those of you who are listening to the broadcast, that meeting is going to take place on October the 26th. 22nd at the City Hall. It's the second meeting. Now, I don't know how in the world 2 meetings gonna give them enough to know what we feel or think. But Joe, let me get your insight on what you saw today. What's your thoughts? I mean,
Yeah.
we heard that this has been going on for a decade. I don't
Yeah.
know what
15 years, 18 years.
I don't know
heard a lot of
what,
different numbers.
a representative or commissioner that's been there for a decade that's been, understanding this. But what were some of your takeaways? and thoughts?
The amount of public involvement that we've had, it sounds like we're talking about repaving 7th Avenue or something, not selling the hospital. We're moving the hospital to somebody else. We can't have 2 meetings on this. I mentioned in my statement, for those who weren't able to listen to the live stream, I mentioned an example up in Colorado. Same exact situation. They had a hospital that had served a lot of people, but it had struggles. They had to do something with it. The city owned it. They talked about it for 3 entire years. They had session after session. They talked about different for-profit options coming to the table. I'm not saying that's what I want by any means, but they weighed all their options. And then they made the decision to go with the university, a couple cities over in Boulder, and it's been a huge success for that city. But you cannot have a couple public inquiry sessions, a meeting at 9 a.m. when most people have 9 to 5 jobs, 8 to 5 jobs, whatever, and they cannot make it. They cannot give their statements, right? So what I saw today was something that felt like it was a done deal, and they were coming into the room in order to try to make some people happy. Oh, we're listening about these concerns about the state government. We understand the concerns about indigent care, they're obviously incredibly valid concerns. But when we got to the end, and this is what really showed me that this was done and decided. We got to the end, we talked about something very basic. This is a big, giant building in the middle of the city on land that I'm sure the land alone is very, very valuable, let alone the building, furnishings, equipment, all the other stuff that goes into that. We got to the end and we said, Jeremy Matlow, Commissioner Matlow put forward a motion to appraise the building. Seems like a pretty basic thing to me. If I'm selling my house, you're buying my house, we want to know what it's worth. That's the only way we start a negotiation. You can say, well, it looks like a really nice house. You do a basic appraisal. Makes a ton of sense. That motion went forward and it was killed. The motion died. It was altered essentially by the mayor, and it was kind of more or less shot down by Commissioner Williams Cox, and commentary from Commissioner Richardson as well, and didn't move forward. So classic scenario. We ended up in another 3-2 scenario. After the mayor and that collective group basically said, "Hey, we're going to kick it to the city manager. City manager is going to take this negotiation from here." And for me, as the public, I want to, and I'll tell you why I want to know what the hospital's worth. Not because I'm making up a number. They say $100 million. Doesn't mean that they're going to pay $100 million. Expecting a university to come up with a big bucket of cash or whatever, that's complicated. That's beyond my pay grade. But that dollar value matters because there's so many things that we could then do with that money. So, for example, Commissioner Richardson brought up Bond Community Health, right? Fantastic, under advertised entity that we have in Tallahassee serving the underserved community, right? He asked, well, are you going to include these facilities, these groups in town? There's no way that they're going to get written into agreements. So what happens when all this investment attention goes to this new FSU Health entity? How do we ensure that these groups that are going to provide all the patchwork that you need to make sure that our community, health system is serving everybody, that we have something in perpetuity? If we had a 40-year lease for TMH, we need to have a 40-year guarantee of where money is going to come from to keep patching that up. So yeah, there was genuinely, I felt an hour and a half, there was great public statements. Everyone here gave impassioned public statements. We did not, it felt like a lot was thrown away at the very end. a lot of goodwill, a lot of good momentum that was being built, just kind of got shoved to the side. No, that's my perspective.
Wow. Hey, listen, Christine. Okay. Well, listen. I mean, we're giving you some of the recaps. These were voices that were heard during the public forum. What's your thoughts? I mean, you're on the South Side. I think Joe made a good point about Bond Neighborhood Clinic. And as far as what will happen to a clinic that is serving that community if it's not patched into what we see taking place with this merger? How will they survive? How will those people in that community get health care?
What we have to also understand is that the TMH has made great strides in creating a medical ecosystem for the community. What do I mean by that? Before, you just went to TMH or you went to Capital Regional, which is now not Capital Regional. You went to Bond or you went to Careful, wherever you went. It was very segmented, it was very siloed. TMH, by virtue of its understanding, first of all, its need to kind of balance its book as it relates to emergency care of indigents, right? They needed to find partners that they could refer those who were in low income or indigent care, residents who could not afford or were uninsured. They needed to have partnerships so that they could get care. But if they didn't have to come to the ER, they could go to Bond or they could go to these different places. So TMH, out of the necessity to do that, has created a medical ecosystem. They refer people to Bond Community Health Center. They refer people to CarePoint. They have a partnership with CarePoint. They have a partnership with Neighborhood Health. So there's a system there's an ecosystem of access here in this community. I want to make sure that that's understood under the leadership and guidance exclusively of TMA. What happens now is that FSU brings the gravity and the ability to infuse that with innovative research, innovative healthcare. And they're not out there just in the community doing their own thing, right? And so I think the guarantee that people have to have is that, hey, and it says that in the MOU, if you read it, basically nothing changes but the ownership and that everything will stay the same except for the branding and a few other things. But we know that things are going to change. We're not, we're not under a rock, right? And so I think that's the process of community engagement, to have the foresight of what that looks like and to say, you know what, okay, if things are going to change, let's make sure it changes for the better. Let's make sure we don't regress, right, in the strides that we made in terms of making accessible healthcare available. Let's not regress in making sure that people have access to a physician, access to immunization, access to all these things that the system has produced up to this point in synergy. And so it's really, really important that we have that mindset. And those are the guarantees moving forward that we need to see in MOU. We need to see it spelled out. On my post, a pharmacist I know, she's concerned. Are they going to take the FAMU School of Pharmacy? We need to see that spelled out. Hey, we don't want another school. That's not what this is about, right? And we need to have the confidence that things are not going to change for the worse. They're going to change for the better, and no one's going to be disenfranchised.
Okay.
As a result of this innovation in this move.
Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to go to you, Dale, and lean on you for your individual knowledge on this. Hearing Christy, Joe, Cheryl, if things are going to change for the better, if there is a board there, if we're not part of the board, there's no voice that's going to represent the constituents or the population that we're concerned about. How will things change?
You know, and I was sitting back here thinking about a lot of our comments we've made. And the thing that keeps going back, that I keep going back to, is that, first of all, we won't know what the change is. But again, we're going to the wrong sources for the change.
Mm-hmm.
People, we got to sit back, and I want somebody to refute my statement that once this is transferred, it belongs to the Board of Governors. who owns the hospital. Once that plant is transferred, is it go to FSU or does it go to the Board of Governors? If it goes to,
FSU.
no, I'm sorry.
It states that FSU will be it will transition to the ownership, asset ownership of FSU.
The reason I say that, Christy, no university owns property. All property under the state university system, to include all FAMU buildings, belong to the Board of Governors. Once it transfers to FSU, it becomes the property of the Board of Governors.
So the question would be, is it transferred to FSU proper as an institution, or is it transferred to a foundation or a holding?
No,
that
all
FSU governs? That's
buildings.
the question to ask.
And again, I'm with you on that. All buildings, once they are transferred, go into the system of the state. The state can come in and tell FAMU to give up a couple of their buildings to FSU if they don't have enough people attending college. The buildings belong to the university system. So I mean, we need to get smart. And if I'm wrong, please, I'm praying, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. The important part here in the statement was made that I want to go back to. This is going to be on the ballot. Now, whether they do the right thing is on the ballot or whether they do the wrong thing. This college is coming back in November at the polling point based on how people vote and what happens with this. They need to be clear on that. And so what I heard out of it, Brother James, what I heard, again, is the fact about the question of who gets the building, and to go to what you just said. We must be sitting on that board. There ain't no way in the world that the people's interest will not be taken care of by FSU and TMH. And I'm not mad at them. Those are businesses. And so unless we have representation there, there's not going to be DEI in that whole university, in that whole thing. It's not there. And you go look at FSU in the past, like you were saying. It's there. They are not going for DEI, law or no law. He was told by Governor DeSantis what he's going to do, and we're saying all of the presidents across the state university system comply. What will that mean to a hospital that cannot have DEI? Who's going to be making the objective evaluations, quote, on this thing called merit? Who defines merit? And as you said, and you're absolutely right, there's no civil rights. We ain't got nobody to run to. Who we run to? This is in our hands, at least, and the least we can do is for a year until the election. Let the people come and vote and set the stage. And in that vote also has to be more meetings where community is actively involved to help. Because all of the things you got were not designed with the people. I would love to see the document that FSU put out there with all of the things that they're saying. I would love to see what TMH has to say. And then let me see, I'm gonna let y'all take it to y'all churches and then see if it resonates in your church.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Super quick. I just wanted to relay to those again who couldn't listen to the commission meeting one of the important points of debate, which was, I'd like to hear some thoughts from all of you on the way that FAMU was represented in this entire engagement. That's a broader topic. But I think an important part was, I think Commissioner Matlow, Commissioner Richardson, multiple people brought up, okay, can we guarantee that FAMU has seats? That's a super important question. Now, one could say, is one seat symbolic? It's complicated, at that scale, but like there needs to be some representation at minimum, right? So they weren't able to say, oh, we're going to go back and we're going to renegotiate the split, because TMH and FSU went back and forth. How many seats are you going to get? How many seats are you going to get? So on and so forth. There was no clear answer. There was we can consider, we can discuss, so on and so forth. The other, element there is Again, we've already alluded to this, other, guarantees of what does the long-term, involvement of FAMU Health, TSC as well, of course, but, to support our current academic ecosystem that is so interdependent already, with the engineering school, medical school, and so on. Like, again, nothing's clear, nothing's well documented. There just isn't enough detail and information. If I was a commissioner, there's no way I could vote on anything right now, personally. So,
Because let me ask this, because for those of you who are tuned into the broadcast, we are talking about what's taking place right here in our capital city. It's the merger of TMH and Florida State. It's our community hospital. And joining me on the broadcast, all the way from Minneapolis, is your own conscious chick, Cheryl Brown, Joe, and Mr. Dale Landry. And we're giving insight and input. One of the things that we want you to know as a community, on October the 22nd, 9 a.m., it's the second public hearing. It's important that you be there. It's important. It's important. You go. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
On the calendar, it says 3 p.m. So we'll need to be busy.
Okay, so it's on the calendar at 3.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay, October the 22nd at 3 p.m.
Right.
We need you there. It's important. These are times that you must have a voice. These are times that you've got to be vigilant. These are times that you've got to be in person, involved, and engaged, because this situation, been known to us, has been going on for decades, but it just popped up at the surface, and we were told, oh, we're not selling the hospital. That's not true. I think I heard that. Anybody else heard that? Yeah, we were told that, but we're in the midst now of something that has already taken place. And Christy, the question now becomes, we hear what we hear, we see what we see, but public engagement, community engagement has not been a model for FSU to even take a look at what the city has been doing to show how they engage the community when it comes to situations like this.
Well, I mean, the great thing, as the gentleman said earlier, and as Dale said earlier as well, is that the community has an interest in this transfer. It's owned by the community. The hospital lands, assets, it's owned by the community, right? And so I think that, it shouldn't be an adversarial climate where people are asking questions. In fact, we should have answers, right? When we say who is going to be the holding entity for these properties once they're transferred to FSU, it should be clear who that is. Once we ask what the value of the assets are in total and today's fair market value, it should be clear. I don't know why I don't understand. I don't understand why people can't ask questions. And I know that sometimes with business like this, it seems like it's relegated to a professional and knowledgeable few. But the difference here is that this is a community-owned asset. And it's a tremendous community-owned asset. And so people who have an interest in the ecosystem of care, people who have an interest in the innovation that is being brought to the table, we should be given, without any barriers or gatekeeping, the answers to the questions. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable at all to ask for information.
But
so I hope that we'll use this process of engagement to get the answers that we need, so that people can champion this if it's good for the community and get behind it.
But let me ask this to our panelists based on what you just said. When we look at what we're dealing with now, do you all feel and believe that when this issue started, commissioners should have created a panel of a community board that could come to begin to discuss with the city and the hospital before this situation went into a negotiation with FSU and TMH Dell?
I would say this to you, and I want to go with the statement that you made. Now that I look back in retrospect of the whole events as I got there today, I agree with you all. Decisions have already been made. This was just a, what's the word I want to use? This was just a formality that they say you got to have so many hearings and all of that. Greg, I go back to something. First of all, you need to understand where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
I think a few of us here, not many of you, but it ain't got nothing to do with, to a certain extent, with race. But what it's got to do with is how long we've been around.
Yes.
See, I feel a couple of us here, I don't know your age, Greg, yet, but I feel a couple of us here, we grew up in segregation.
Yes.
We had to drink from that separate water faucet. We had to use that bathroom that was outside. So we integrated. We did not come in to integration. We grew up in the segregation. And in many ways, that is the retrospect we are here for. Because many things are starting to look like what was there when we were in segregation. And many things look like it's getting ready to head back that way. When we start leaving the community out of the table, we set the stage for that kind of foolishness. You know, you asked the question about, could the commission say, I've been doing this for many years. I'm in a new career. I mean, I'm standing down for my after military 21 years life, but I've always dealt with this issue of DEI my whole life. It was a way of life, and then working to help eliminate that and create diversity for people and create these opportunities. And what we're seeing here and what you're saying, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be a little nice, but it ain't gonna be all nice. I'm gonna give the commissioners a little bit of room, but they ain't doing this right. And I hope they will listen to the people. But it's imperative, just as we turned out to vote, when my uncle came around with that station wagon and picked up all my aunts in 60 to go, for the first time we as blacks could vote. I saw our community get all excited and turn out and go to the polls. Now this was after my grandmother got spit on by some white teenagers when she went to try to register. But this is how long this has been going on for me. I have a commitment, but it ain't just for black people per se, it's for people.
People, right.
All right. And, you know, and my family is mixed. All right. And I don't mind speaking to that. My children are biracial, their mother is German. But the reality of it is this: I stand for all. Because when I look at my granddaughter that has to come down the road, she's in the class of 35. I saw that scared the daylights out of me. I hope I live. But the bottom line out of it is that it's what we're leaving behind. I have a duty for what I went through, and to my grandmother, and to those that are beyond me. And this radio station is important, Greg, because the population you are reaching were with me in segregation. They know the importance. They know the value of that University of Florida A&M. My mother was the first to graduate out of 20 in my family that have gone through the halls of FAMU, to include me and my son. So we have an obligation to that university also. Many others don't. Many don't have an idea what that university meant. You got to remember something. Florida A&M had a hospital. And back in the day, TMH took that hospital, or they're so believe, that's the story. Now we're there again, getting ready to watch. And I just hate to be a harbinger of bad news, but based on what I see, the road is set up to lose the School of Medicine and every one of the medical things they have. Because again, remember what it's called, a university medical complex. If they ain't got it, FSU got to create it. If FAMU got it, why do they need to create it? The Board of Governors just transferred asset. What they don't have, that FAMU has, you all can take it to the bank. If it's going to be the University Medical Center in Tallahassee, the Board of Governors are not going to stand by and watch another school be here too. That's a waste of money to a certain extent. I hate to say that, but I got to call it. The only inch piece we got is we own the land. Once the land goes and the facilities go, FSU can do whatever they wanted to, and so can this government. So I'm just saying, I'm sorry, but
No. I think you make a great point because we talked about the documents, and I think somebody said today who went to the podium, have you all really had a chance to go through all of the documents? And with that being said, I think you raise a major concern is if the Board of Governors are owning buildings throughout all universities here, then what assurance do we really have as a community that once this merger take place, that they got to listen to anything we say? Joe?
There's so many questions. One other quick question that came up.
And then you.
Absolutely, super quick. So we're talking about the only control that's discussed is the board
That's it.
votes. It was brought up, though, during the discussion, is that board, once the transfer occurs, is the board even legal? Can the city even have a board for something that they do not own? Like, can they enforce that board? That's a great question. Now, I'm not a contract lawyer. I can't speak to that, but that's the level of ambiguity that we're dealing with and how far we are from having all those questions answered.
Wonderful. Okay, Cheryl, and I want to come back to something else.
Okay, I've listened to everything you all said. Everything is a good question, a good observation. And when I brought it up about getting more community engagement, and Christy can great know that I'm a real proponent of that. So what I was asking them in no uncertain terms, they may need to delay this so it can be better communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that in the meeting because there's so many of us. I'm sitting here with you all and I'm still somewhat confused. And I'm sitting here. So we need to be more educated. I would like to know more about it to make sure that everybody else knows about it. And back to what you said about the segregation part. Yes, I grew up in it and I'm observing what's going on now, even in the classroom, from the classroom to the commission room. And a lot of that we can deter if we get out and vote. We are not holding our responsibility and getting out and vote and getting out in the community. We can be our own worst enemy in that part, because we have gotten lazy and complacent in that area. So we got to do that. And see, people look at that and say, because I have mentioned, and I think I mentioned, Greg, why we got to beg us to get out and vote. You see what I mean? So we need to get out and vote. And when they see that you're going to vote, they'll listen. You come to the meetings, they're going to listen. I'm not saying they're not listening now because I'm not in their head, but we got to get more out there. So all of these questions that is coming up in here, in the commission room, out in the street, as Christy said, we need to get and see if they can delay it or maybe make it more where we can understand it better before it comes into fruition, And then maybe we can feel better about it because right now, I can't say I'm for it, and I can't say I'm completely against it because I said that in the meeting. I still need some more questions asked, because
And that's fair. I agree with you.
You agree with me?
I agree with you.
Because see, and I'll say this: when I go sub, I'm not teaching anymore, and I watch how the children are behaving, and I appreciate what is out there for them to learn and to do. We're gonna have to get more people to be educated, more parental involvement. Even with this, parents should be wondering. Because if your child gets sick, you need to know what's going on in your community at either hospital, either entity. So we need to get out and pay attention. Don't just go by what I say or what you're talking about, Cheryl. Who's going to City Hall? Come and go with me so you can understand that. And that's been my thing. And Greg know it. I tell say that all the time. Get out, be vigilant, listen, and speak your voice. Let your voice be heard.
Hey, listen, those of you who are tuned into the broadcast through all of our virtual platforms and through the airways, we are talking about the merger. It's happening. It seemed like it was only yesterday that we heard about it, and today it looked like we're at the final chapters, but we're believing that our voices, our involvement can make a world of a difference. Wanted to just raise this question and go back to something, Joe, you said. You brought up Colorado.
Yep.
Colorado was struggling with their facility. They didn't know what to do. They reached out, and you said, based on your research, it took them 3 years of studying and conversating to come to a resolve. And now that hospital is in partnership with the Boulder College University,
Yes, sir.
and it's doing well.
Yes.
But let's look at what you're saying. It took them 3 years. And I think, Christine, you brought up the University of South Florida when you and I were talking earlier. So here we are. In all fairness, do we know how long this conversation has really been going on? You know,
I have no clue.
Joe,
I think, the first things that were becoming somewhat public are only 7-8 months old at the oldest, from my perspective.
so we're talking about a 7-month-old conversation. Maybe it's been going on long. We just don't know about it.
Sure.
But when we first heard about it, there was an outrage from Tallahassee Memorial Hospital employees showing up. They bombarded City Hall. They voiced their concern. But obviously, as we know how things are done, the train has already left the station and it's going down the track.
Well, I hope not.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, because I think it's hard, especially if you're a person that decides to go to a meeting, you decide to get involved. Maybe you're not involved in politics all the time. You might get frustrated and say, we already lost, right? That being said, what I referred to earlier, Colorado, they formed that foundation. that foundation, they give grant money out to different organizations. If we have to relent and say, this is happening, there's no way to just fully make it not happen. And I don't know if that's true. But what happens next? What happens with money that Tallahassee does get for that property?
But how do we know Tallahassee is going to even get any money? Because now it's in the hands of the city manager who's going to make that decision.
Yeah.
There was a motion to have the property appraised,
right,
so that we would know what the value is. At least we would have had an idea of what could have been an offer.
Yeah, the implication is that they're going to come to this next meeting and hopefully have numbers. I'm using air quotes for those on the radio, but they're going to have numbers to discuss. That's the hope, right? And there is no guarantee. Now, the city manager did say that this was supposed to be at the direction of the commission on what the recommendation was, if they were supposed to move forward with some compensation, whatever that may look like. Now, he also, and it's important for people to understand, there's getting a lump sum. There's also rolling revenue that comes in over time. Now, again, this is my opinion. The thing that I do not like is that the idea of that revenue, or whatever that payment may look like, just going into the city government's budget. We have no say over whether it's going, again, to local healthcare initiatives, something that we can agree on as a public is a worthwhile trade for all these benefits. The things we know is that in this scenario, and we haven't really kind of talked about the overall, this academic medical center concept. I do feel, and I totally understand the skepticism. I want to be very clear. Your points are very, very valid about what could happen with FAMU. I cannot, dismiss that at all. I do know from looking at other communities, generally speaking, these academic medical centers do benefit people. The story I told, so I'm an amputee, was born without a bone in my leg, a tibia, very, very rare. And because of that, I had to go for procedures, and because of other complications, go back and forth I-10, I-75 down to Shands, right? Now, I did that for the first 10 years of my life or so. So my family was lucky. My parents were small business owners. My mom could take the time off to drive me down there. If we had to get a hotel room, we could do all of that. We were very privileged to afford that. Most people are not in that situation. They cannot go get those services, and then you're in a world of pain when you can't take time off work. People are already stretched thin enough as it is. So we're in a scenario where I do feel that there is major value here. It is something that could be really good for people. But again, it's about, again, the pace. It's just not good. It doesn't feel right.
Right. Well, listen, we're wrapping up, and I'm going to give each one of you all closing comments, about 45 seconds. But certainly, I want to give a big shout out to our faith leaders. I want to give a big shout out to Pastor Holmes, as we all gathered on yesterday. And this is to your point, and this is something that we all agreed upon, that if there is going to be a transfer, we all agree that, hey, we can't stop the mergers happening. We can't stop it. As you stated, it has its benefits, and it's good that healthcare could be at a higher level. But if there is going to be a merger, and if there's going to be a sale, then we thought from a faith perspective that there should be what we call the Good Samaritan purse. Funds from that sale go there, and the commissioners look at what areas in our city need affordable housing, need funding to curb some of the violence that we see, funds to help make our city better. But if there is no appraisal, if there is the city manager who now has the whole autonomy of deciding how this transaction takes place, and today they made mention of rolling out possibility funds, then what does that do for us as a community? It takes away, and it does not give the kind of hope that we were looking for. So listen, closing comments, Christy, Henry, this has been great.
She's still there.
Yeah, so certainly want to thank her for joining us. Closing comments, Mr. Landry.
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
The only other thing I'll say is I love the idea of the University Medical Center. There was a time past that I was proposing it to several people, but I proposed a building one out in Quincy, in Gaston County, and let it be a joint school with FAMU and FSU, just like they did the engineering school. Build a hospital where FAMU would focus on minority health care and FSU would focus on rural health care. But out of the pie, we would also, by virtue of where it would be in Quincy, it would be tri-state. We would have Georgia, we could reach Alabama, and all of that. Because the other thing we could put in that we don't have up here is a veterans hospital. Mm-hmm. And that can be all built into that research component where FAMU could continue doing research along minority healthcare issues. FSU can continue doing it about rural healthcare. And then the other thing, they can jointly work together with veterans. In the meanwhile, because you have a school of FAMU that has healthcare administration, they can build small hospitals to go in the counties to do rural healthcare. If we did this all the right way and came to the table collectively.
Yeah.
But we did not. So on that note, all I can say is get out and vote. More importantly, show, if this means something to you on this radio, be at that October meeting and be ready to speak and say something. But if you say nothing, don't come back and bother me while I'm walking up and down the street. All right? Don't come back to me crying.
Yeah, if you don't say that.
You go on about your business, just like you did when you went and didn't vote this last term. Accept what you got. But know this, it's going to impact our health care.
Wow.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much. Joe, final words.
I'll echo the same sentiment. I think we're all going to say voting is incredibly important. I think it's important to email, for what it's worth, every single commissioner, email the mayor, let them know your thoughts.
And call them. And call them.
Do everything.
Call Greg too.
Yeah, call Greg. There's no, I think we forget the power we have
Yes.
frequently. Again, because you say we don't win all the time. That's not, it's the battle, right? It's a long battle. It's hard. So do your civic duty, vote, research candidates, research their positions, understand who you're voting for and what you're voting for. It's all super.
Say that again.
Research your candidates, understand what you're voting for and who you're voting for.
Wow. Cheryl?
Well, I agree with all of you all. And when you show up at the meetings, please come and be educated. Have an idea of what you're going to speak on. Don't come up there, as my grandma would say, hemming and hawing. Know what you're going to ask and be ready to receive the answers in a respectful and intelligent manner. You get more with honey than you do with vinegar. And that's all I need to say. I'm with Dale and everybody else. I need to see you in the place, October 22nd, 3 p.m.
Wow. Hey, listen, this has been an amazing show. I'm grateful for the guests that have joined us today to be encouraging, informative, and inspirational right here over Hallelujah 95.3. This has been the Greg James Show. Hey, I want to say to all of you, you got to do what needs to be done if you want to see the change that you want to see happen. Certainly, I'm a little disappointed with some of the things that took place today, but you'll hear a little more about it. But I tell you one thing, I'm going to be calling on you to rise up and let's make this election cycle one of the best, because we're going to vote like never before. Hey, until next week, you stay blessed. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And in the meantime, if you plan to go to Atlanta, I wonder who you're going to see playing. But in the meantime, enjoy your weekend, FAMU, Florida State, Miami. I'll be somewhere in Doak Campbell Stadium. I'm going to see, can I get some hospital pass? Y'all be blessed. Until next time.
Hallelujah. 95.3 FM. Hallelujah.
Dale Larry.
95.3
Nice meeting you, bud.
Great to meet you.
We met, yeah, hopefully we get a chance. We need to exchange.
Yeah.
About things before we go to the meeting on the 22nd. Sometimes it's been that we have to be ready. But I really think,
You got my contact information.
I think you have my contact. Make sure, Dale.
Here.